And here I am. And here I am again. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates. My name is Ron Tyler. Welcome to the Emergency Management Associates Network, the area command 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. As we've been doing for quite some time, we're going to start off with the national anthem. Will you all please rise? Now everyone, you can stand down at ease. This is United States Army Band playing the Star Spangled Banner tonight for us, the United States National Anthem. I wish we could play everyone's national anthem every week. Unfortunately, we can't do that. I want to thank the Army and the United States Navy, the Marine Corps, the Air Force, the Coast Guard, and the Space Force for helping protect this country. There are a lot of things going on right now, and quite frankly, we may still see World War III any day now. And while I'm talking about that, we may still be involved in World War III today, and we've been at war for quite some time. I want to thank our armed forces for helping protect us, and we thank you for your service. I want to thank our allied forces, wherever they might be around this globe. Thank you for your service, and thank you for helping us keep peace in the world. God bless you all, and may you all return home safely after your tours of duty end. Thank you so much for your service. Folks, like I said, we have a lot going on. I want to get on this tonight. We have talked about emergency preparedness kits. We've talked about food storage. We've talked about water storage. We're going to still talk about it. We've been talking about emergency planning this week and last week. Last Friday we started talking about emergency planning. We're going to continue that. I will not stop until everyone has this information. When we were on our other channel before, we were rudely hacked and that channel taken down away from us. We had 4 years worth of programming. As of April 4th, just a few weeks ago, we had 4 years of programming on that other channel. And unfortunately, a month and a half, some idiot took us down. We're back here. We're doing our job. We're trying to make sure that everyone receives the information and the help that they need to prepare for an emergency and a disaster in your own lives. And it's coming. We're going to be talking about some of those tonight. First thing I want to do is really quickly go over to the USGS map. Folks, no, we have not had any major disasters here in the United States today. There's been no major earthquakes and no major disasters. However, that does not mean there hasn't been something that we need to take a look at. I'm going to go down here on the USGS map. I'm going to go down here, right here, into Papua New Guinea. This is Papua New Guinea at the border of Papua Indonesia. This is a large 5.2 earthquake. Okay, we're only going to talk about major disturbances, major earthquakes today. This is it. A 5.2 magnitude earthquake hit Papua New Guinea earlier this morning. This was only a 54 kilometer deep quake. This is still fairly shallow. Typically we hear of shallow being 6.2 miles deep, 10 kilometers deep. While this is a little bit deeper than that, this doesn't matter. This is in the crust. Why am I worried about this? Okay, I'm not really worried about it because it's in the crust. It's not a deep quake. Now, speaking of that, the crust typically is anywhere from 39 miles deep to 69 miles deep. Okay? Why is that? Because just like we have hills and mountains here above the ground here, we believe that the same thing is going on beneath our crust. Meaning there are hills and mountains down there, and there's magma passing under them and into them. And when magma hits those mountains, it causes rock fracturing beneath the ground. And as the magma passes over the top of it, it creates tremors. Okay? That's what's going on. This is not a deep quake. This is in our crust. It's above the 39-mile area in our crust. The crust is what we walk on. Okay? That's where this earthquake is. It's a fairly shallow quake. We have had deeper quakes. We talked about one deep quake yesterday, like 539 kilometers deep. That was a fairly deep earthquake. This one here is something similar. Okay? This is 124 kilometers deep. Not that big a deal. This is a 5.3 earthquake. A 5.3 large earthquake. 5.0 to 5.5 is considered to be large. 5.6 to 5.9 is considered to be very large because it's in the upper large range. It's in the upper large range from 5.6 to 5.9. Just like 4.6 to 4.9 is in the upper magnitude range for moderate quakes, the 5.6 to 5.9 is considered to be the upper magnitude range for large quakes. This is a 5.3. This is only a 5.3. This is 124 kilometers deep. It's 124.7. So let's add just another kilometer onto that. Okay? Still, 125 kilometers, not too bad. Still, it's a fairly shallow earthquake. Okay? Then we go over here to Central America. Go figure. We've had another earthquake here. Not surprising. We showed you earthquakes down here in Central America yesterday. There's like Here there's about 24 earthquakes here in Central America. There were some 50 earthquakes in southern Mexico. Okay? Down here, yesterday here in South America, they showed 3 earthquakes when there was actually 36 earthquakes here in South America. Today, what are they showing us? 1. There's 1. There's actually 28 earthquakes in South America today. This is a moderate 4.2, 123 kilometers deep. Not a big deal. This is a moderate 4.2 in northern Chile. Okay? This is near Calama, Chile. Calama, Chile has been having 5s and 6s here. Okay? We do expect that to rise again. That is going to happen. This place gets hit all the time. So far, nada. Okay? However, here on the southern Pacific Rise here, this is called the West Chile Rise. Okay? We have a 4.7 here. An upper magnitude moderate quake, 4.7. Okay, not that big a deal. Plus, look what was at. It was out to sea. Nobody felt this earthquake on land. The ocean absorbed the water the ocean itself, the water absorbed the seismic energy. That's what happened. Okay, over here, okay, the same thing applies here. This was just barely offshore here. Just barely offshore off of El Salvador. Okay, 4.0 moderate earthquake. Okay, just 27 kilometers southeast of Aculeta, El Salvador. And I know I just butchered that name. It's Acajutla. Acuta, I think. I don't know. Acaluta. Maybe I got better. But this is just barely offshore. Nobody felt this quake either. The ocean waters absorbed the shock wave here. It's a moderate earthquake. Nothing really big to do about it. Look at this. This just barely happened. I was just looking at this area just a few minutes ago. This just barely happened. Where is this at, guys? Okay, this is west again of Italy. This is Malta. 2 months ago we had a 5.0 here. Just 2 months ago. This is a 5.5. This is a very large earthquake. A 5.5. This is 109 kilometers southeast of Malta. Southeast of Malta. Folks, this is not that big a deal. Okay? It's off here in the Mediterranean, the Western Mediterranean. This is Malta right here. Okay? So this is not that big a deal. Somebody may have felt this one, but it's just very, very mild shaking. That's all this happened. It just happened. And over here, just south and east of Sicily, this happened. It was a 4.1 earthquake. Moderate earthquake. A low range moderate earthquake. Okay, it was only 30 kilometers deep. Not that big a deal. Okay, but this 5.5, that is kind of a big deal, except it's in the ocean waters. Nobody's going to say anything about that because hardly anybody felt it. Okay? Look again here. This is wonderful. USGS is still not telling anybody what is going on around the globe. There are 28 earthquakes here in Greece, yet nobody's talking about them. There's a couple earthquakes wandering around over here. Got something in my eye. Well, that's weird. Anyway, folks, there are some earthquakes swirling down here, okay, in the Western Med. I don't expect it to be anything big deal right now. But there's 22 earthquakes in Greece, and USGS says nothing. Not a thing out of USGS. Okay? There's earthquakes over here as well. This is Turkey. Yet they don't show a darn thing here. Over here at the border of Syria and Turkey, we've had another 150 earthquakes here. They show nothing. They show nothing. USGS says there's 289 earthquakes worldwide. Really? Really? And why are you not showing 150 earthquakes here? Or 25 earthquakes over in Greece? Or the island of Crete? They're not saying a word. Okay? It blows my mind. It really blows my mind. There's earthquakes over here in Iran. There's earthquakes right here. Let me show you this. This is a moderate 4.3 here. This is not that big a deal. It's 34, 35 kilometers deep. Okay? Folks, this is in the Caspian Sea. This is not really a big deal either. Okay? no pain, no gain. 34 kilometers deep. This is also in the mountainous region of that area. You see mountains coming around here from Himalaya here. Okay, these are the Himalayas that divide India from China. Divide India from China. That seismic energy here continue anytime a earthquake hits here in the Himalayas, whether it's from Niger, whether it's from Nepal, whether it's from India, whether it's from Myanmar or Vietnam, that energy still has to pass through this area. It's a craton edge. It's a craton edge. We see seismic energy do this all the time. Then it passes through Tajikistan, Afghanistan, Kyrgyzstan, and comes over this way. Comes right through the Caspian Sea. Okay? Comes right through this area into Turkey and Syria. And yet they're not talking about what's going on here. They're not talking about it. This is insane, guys. Again, the preeminent earthquake seismic the preeminent seismic agency here in the United States, and they don't tell anybody anything. Heaven forbid that they're being honest. Now, folks, I've drank plenty of fluids today, and I'm thirsty as all get out. So if you folks will excuse me every once in a while, I'm going to have to get some water here. I've got plenty of it here. But that's what's happening with me. But again, here in Europe, the Middle East, China, they're not saying anything. Not a darn thing. There's earthquakes over here in Italy that they're not saying anything about. All over Europe here that they're not saying anything about. Germany, Switzerland, Austria, the Alps here, the Austrian, Germany, Swiss Alps, northern Italy Alps, not saying a word. Not a thing. Nothing in the French Alps, nothing over here in the Netherlands either, in Holland. Not a thing. Why not? Because they're too damn lazy. They're not showing anything here in Spain either. I know for a fact there's earthquakes there. Okay? They're not showing anything up here in Scandinavia today. There were earthquakes here yesterday, and they're still not showing anything here today. Okay? There's nothing showing in Iceland. There's like 15 earthquakes here in Iceland today. Not a thing being said. Okay? Earlier today, there was a 2.7 earthquake up here in Quebec. They took it down. They took it down. Go figure. I want to go over here for a second. This is in eastern Tennessee. Okay? And actually, it should be about central Tennessee. This is a 2.5 magnitude earthquake. Just a minor earthquake over here in Tennessee. Folks, this is a 2.1. This is just barely southeast of there. This is a 2.1, just 1 mile, 2 kilometers west-northwest of Neota, Texas. Or, excuse me, Texas. Neota, Tennessee. Sorry, I can't get things out of my mind sometimes. Over here, we have the Pneumatic Fault. There's earthquakes over here too. They're not telling us about it. The Pneumatic Fault is gearing up to go off. And it's going to go off in a big way. Going over here, we just barely had this tremor here. It's a 1.8 tremor in Oklahoma. Further northwest here, Kearney, Oklahoma, 2.1. We used to never get hit in Kearney. Now it's getting hit. Earthquakes here in Oklahoma are oil and gas generated. Oil and gas fracking. Seismic energy finds a man-made hole in the earth from drilling for oil and gas. Hits there, there's seismic energy resulting in an earthquake. Fracking causes that. Okay? We still have a few things happening over here in southwestern Texas. This is Toyah, Texas. Okay, Toyah, Texas. It's a 2.4 tremor or earthquake. 2.4 earthquake. Right here is a 2.5. A 2.5. Right just south of this one is another 2.3 in Toyah, Texas. Not really a big deal. All of these are oil and gas related as well. Let me zoom in here. I'll show you. Look at this one. I don't think this is anything less than like 20 miles away from this oil and gas plot right here. Okay? Right there. It looks to be vacant here. If it isn't vacant, I'll be surprised. But this was the spot for a pump and jack. There's still a hole there. There's still a hole there, and as a result of that hole, there's an earthquake. Okay? All over this area. Literally. All over this area, we see pumps and jacks everywhere. Literally everywhere. Okay? Going up here. Okay? Again, this is Toyah, Texas. Toyah, Texas. There are oil and gas fields all over. You can see them here. Okay? Let's go up here. This is also a 2.2 near Toyah, Texas as well. Okay? Look at this, guys. Oil and gas all over this region. Oil and gas all over this region. And even north here. Okay? That's what's going on there. Texas has probably as many oil wells as Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska. They've all got oil. They've all got some oil. Now, I spent a lot of time recently talking about California. Okay? We talked a lot about California. You guys are very knowledgeable about what is happening in California now. We've also in the past talked about something else that's happening. And it's going to happen. Okay? It may happen as a result of the Cascadia megathrust earthquake, which remains to be seen what's going on. Before I get into this explanation of what's going to happen in Southern California, stretching up north, let me show you this. This just happened. This is a 3.2 again. This is just just west of the Cascadia subduction zone, off the coast of Yachats, Oregon. Yachats, Oregon. Okay? Just off the coast. This is a 3.2 small earthquake. More and more earthquakes are hitting on the Cascadia subduction zone. Why? We've explained this in the past. Just like down in the southwestern part of the Pacific, where they have 7 plates subducting under the other plates. Here we have several faults, including the Juan de Fuca and the Pacific Plate. They're defaulting and going right underneath the North American Plate here. They're deep diving under the North American Plate, which is causing earthquakes. That's exactly what's happening here. It's causing earthquakes. This is not the first earthquake that's hit here in this region this week. There have been at least 3 others here. 3.5s, 3.6s, and 3.7s. This is a 3.2. Okay? One other thing down here, and then we'll go back to California. Darn sinuses. Down here in Ferndale, California. What happened here 2 months ago? This area was hit This area was hit by an 8.0 earthquake. An 8.0 earthquake. USGS tried to talk it off as a 6.8. It was an 8.0, and I showed you the evidence then that that's exactly what it is, what it was. We're getting aftershocks here. We're getting aftershocks here. This is just one more aftershock. My sinuses are just draining my throat here. I've already taken my sinus medication. Sorry about that. Don't like sneezing or hacking into your head, your ears. But folks, this is just barely off the coast of Ferndale, California. It's a 1.8 tremor here. A 1.8 tremor. One other earthquake here, about 100 miles south of there, southeast of there, is a 2.9 earthquake. This is also the third earthquake here in this area. This is Laytonville, California. This is just barely below the surface. Okay? Just barely below the surface. And look, folks, if you look closely, see there's an earthquake fault here? An earthquake fault. This is not the San Andreas. This is the Oceana fault here. Okay? The San Andreas is further west here. It's still offshore here. It came ashore just briefly after it came out of the Cascadia subduction zone area. It headed south, and the San Andreas fault stays out there until right here. To right here. Then it just barely stays on the coast until it gets just past San Francisco Bay. Then it does head east. It heads southeast. Okay? Then look here. Right here. Okay? Now I'm going to zoom in here a little bit so you can see what I see. This is a 2.0 magnitude earthquake. A minor earthquake. No big deal. This is near Alum Rock, California. This is also on the Hayward Fault. It's on the Hayward Fault. And not more than 6 or 8 miles east from there is the Calaveras Fault. The Calaveras Fault. This is getting to be a very dangerous area here. Okay? We have two faults literally coming together like this. The Calaveras on the east side and the Hayward on the west side. And further west, we have the San Andreas coming into the coast like this. Coming into California just like this. 3 major faults in this area. 2 of them coming together and locking up here. Right down here, south of there. This is Morgan Hill. This is exactly where the Calaveras and the Hayward Fault meet. Right here. This is a very dangerous area here. And yet, right here, Morgan Hill has gotten hit 3 times in the past month. Morgan Hill, ladies and gentlemen, it's not a real dangerous area, but it's still significance. It's got a lot of significance knowing what we know here. Okay? We go further south. Guess what, folks? This is still dangerous. Okay? This is the Hayward Fault down here. And just west of there, what do we have? We have the San Andreas Fault. San Andreas Fault just barely misses Monterey Bay here. And it continues south. This earthquake I lit up for you right now, it's a 3.2 earthquake. Where is it at? Hollister, California. When I lived in California in my younger days in the 1970s, Hollister got hit big time. I think they had a 5.6 earthquake here in Hollister. It was a big deal. I remember hearing about it and reading about it. A lot of people were killed, and a lot of property was damaged here. We're going to be talking about earthquakes and property damage tonight. I want to give you some significant statistics about it. You might want to take some notes. Further south, We talked about this yesterday as well. This is a 1.9, 2.0 earthquake. This earthquake is in the pinnacles. The pinnacles here. Number one, it's right on the San Andreas Fault. Two, there are oil and gas drilling going on in this area. The pinnacles today, another 1.9, 2.0 earthquake. This one here that is almost directly west. Okay? This one is in the form of a yield sign. I wonder why. USGS calls this a quarry blast. It's in the hills out here, and it's just east of a populated area populated by farms. Populated by farms. And it's just south of a town. Just south of a town. This is a 1.1 tremor. USGS is calling it a quarry blast. It's about a mile north of this small quarry right here. I do not think that this is a quarry blast. This is just a tremor, a 1.1 tremor, and this is just northwest of this quarry here. It's not a quarry blast, USGS. Prove it. Prove it. Anyway, guys, that's what's going on up here. This is very busy area. We don't see much happening here. That worries me. That's really significant. Now, where I'm taking you now, everybody should get a little riled here. Okay? Why? This is San Simeon. San Simeon. This is the 4th and 5th earthquake here in 2 weeks. Well, this is just a 1.5 tremor. Here's another one here, right here. That's a 1.5 as well. On the Oceana Fault here in San Simeon. Ask Sage Pup the next time you see him here. Ask Sage Pup what he thinks of San Simeon and the earthquakes. He's been there. He's been there. Lisa Spencer, it's good to see you here. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Lisa Spencer is one of our longtime friends here. Kimberly Hopkins is here, one of our mods here. We appreciate that. Demon Catman, Michael McKinney are here. Thank you so much for being here. My dear friend Don Patoka, who is also one of our mods. He says he is just listening. He's cooking dinner. Hey, Don, what's for dinner? I like some. That'd be nice. Actually, I've eaten my dinner earlier. Anyway, folks, you don't see much happening here on the San Andreas Fault until you get a lot further south. Over here, folks, over here, this is Shandon. Shandon here. Okay? This is the San Andreas Fault. Shandon, California. We didn't see much happening up here, did we? Up here further north, about 100 miles north of here, is the world capital, or not the world capital, the California capital of earthquakes. Parkview, California. We've gotten all the way down here, and there's only this earthquake here, right along the San Andreas Fault. 1.1 tremor, 12 kilometers deep. Not bad. But it's quiet here. It's quiet. The San Andreas Fault down here meets up with another fault. This is the Garlock Fault. The Garlock Fault. Right here, just barely to the northeast of the San Andreas and east, not really east, but further northwest of the Garlock. This is Arvin, California. Arvin, California, guys. Look here. Look here, guys. This is farmland and residences here. There's farms going up all over this area here. So this got hit. It's a 1.5 tremor. Nobody felt it. Nobody felt it in Arvin, California. But Arvin is also something else. What do you think Arvin is for? What is going on in Arvin? Besides farming. Now we're getting into volcanoes. Volcanoes. Further north here, I'm clicking on this one. This is Bodefish, California. We talked about Bodefish here yesterday because there was just barely an earthquake about a mile northeast of here. This is Bodefish, California, and there's all kinds of cones and craters all over this area because a volcano erupted. And it's not just one eruption. There's all kinds of cones and craters all throughout this area. Okay, you see one down here. Actually, there's several. You can see them here. Those are all volcanic holes there. Volcanic cones and craters throughout this area. There's even more of them. Okay, let's go further north and east here. This is Ridgecrest, California. There's been several earthquakes here in Ridgecrest. This is a 0.5 microquake here at Ridgecrest. This is a 1.9 2.0 earthquake here in Ridgecrest. This is a 1.0 tremor here in Ridgecrest here. And one more here, guess what? Guess what? This one's a 1.1, and right here, this is a 0.7. Okay? There's a little bit going on here in the Ridgecrest area. There's a lot going on, but they're just not telling us about it. They show us 3 or 4 quakes, and they think, oh, they're done. They're not going to be looking at anything else. Really? Really? Why not? Why not? Let me show you this, guys. This is the north end of the Walker Lane Fault. This is Pyramid Lake. Pyramid Lake is a volcano. We have a 0.0 a 0.0 surface quake. Really? Surface quake? It's down in the crater. It's freaking down in the crater. It's 12, excuse me, not 12, it's 17, 18 kilometers deep. 17.9, that's 18 kilometers deep. It's not a surface quake. This is ridiculous. This quake they have is a 0.3 microquake here. This, folks, this is only 5.4 kilometers deep. Okay? This is just barely 2 3/4 miles deep. This is a volcano. Okay? Then we come down here. This is Reno, Nevada, or excuse me, this is 13 kilometers south of Reno, Nevada. This is the Walker Lane Fault area, a 0.4. And we continue south here. The Nevada border region with California. The Walker Lane Fault, Antelope Valley, California here. Walker Lane Fault. We continue south here, Topaz Lake, Nevada. The Walker Lane Fault here. Okay? We come all the way down here. All the way down here. The Walker Lane Fault stretches down here. Okay? Come all the way down here. Okay? What is on the east side of the Salton Sea here? The east side of Salton Sea, we have the San Andreas Fault again. Okay? Further north, we had the San Andreas Fault, Walker Lane Fault area. Okay? Guess where the San Andreas Fault goes? It goes right through northern Mexico and right smack dab into the Gulf of California. Why am I bringing this up? They're not showing any earthquakes there. There are, but they're not showing them. Why am I showing you this? Because at one day, folks, and if you look at the U.S. Navy map online, it shows us. One day, there's going to be an inland sea down here, stretching from the Gulf of California all the way up to Pyramid Lake. All the way north to Pyramid Lake. It's going to split this land smack dab open. All the way up here to Pyramid Lake. Right there. Right to Pyramid Lake, right here. One day. Okay? No, it probably won't happen in our lifetime, but it could. We've been having a lot of earthquakes all the way up and down California into Nevada. It still could very much well happen. Down in the Imperial Valley, south of the Salton Sea. It doesn't show us any earthquakes down here today, does it? Not all at all. Okay? It doesn't show us any earthquakes except over here in Ocotillo Wells, California. That, folks, is a 1.3 tremor. It does not show any earthquakes at all in the Imperial Valley or over at Bombay Beach. There are. There's about 4 or 5 3.5 to 4.5 earthquakes at Bombay Beach today. There's over 150 earthquakes down here in the Imperial Valley today. But they're not going to show you that. They don't want anybody to see it. Okay? Between this and what's already happened in Turkey and Syria, we could easily have and show at least 600 or 700 earthquakes between here and what we've already shown you. And that's not all. There's more. There's a lot more. Okay? This week we talked about Southern California earthquakes. We talked about earthquakes up in Northern California. We talked about earthquakes over in Oregon and Washington and out to sea. Out to sea. And like I said, this is just one more earthquake out here off the coast of Oregon today. Right next to the Cascadia subduction zone. This is important. This is really, really important. Now, I'm going to show you some pictures here. And there's a method to my madness. There's a huge method to my madness here. Okay? So, folks, hang in here with me. I think you're going to enjoy this story that I'm going to tell you. I think you're going to enjoy it a lot. Okay? Remember we told you last week and this week that there was a hole out there in the middle of the ocean out here in the Juan de Fuca area between the Cascadia subduction zone and the Juan de Fuca fault? Yes, folks, there's a huge hole. A gaping, literally a gaping fissure of sorts out here in the ocean, on the ocean floor. And you see here water escaping from that hole here at the bottom of the ocean. What is going on? Scientists have now found out what is happening here, why we're seeing water escaping the ocean floor. They've taken samples. That area of the ocean floor is the Cascadia subduction zone right here. It's leaking seismic fluid. That fluid here is not just gaseous, but folks, it also contains biological material, all kinds of material down there that is lubricating the fault. Lubricating the Cascadia subduction zone fault. The North American plate. Remember us telling you that the North American plate is taking a deep dive under the North American continent here? That's exactly what's happening. And all that leaking of seismic fluid is making it easier for that Cascadia megathrust earthquake to happen. It's making it easier for that Cascadia megathrust to happen. A 9.0 to a 10.0 magnitude earthquake here. Yes, folks, it's going to happen. You can take that to the bank as well, or the credit union. This is going to happen. There's going to be a megathrust earthquake. It's going to be a 9.0 to a 10.0 magnitude earthquake. It's going to shake this entire region north to south. It's going to be felt all the way up into Alaska and all the way down south to northern Mexico. It's going to create a tsunami. That tsunami is going to go all the way across the Pacific Ocean to Japan again. It happened one time back in 1700. Folks, when that happened, the Japanese people kept great records. They know when that tsunami hit there. The American Indians living in Washington and Oregon also felt that earthquake. They kept some good records as well. So we know we're about 235 years past. 235 years past the time that this should have happened. It literally can happen any time. We've talked about the Cascadia megathrust earthquake at length, almost ad nauseum. But it's important because this earthquake is going to be larger than anything that people have ever seen in their lives. Larger than the 6.9 San Francisco Bay earthquake in 1989. It's going to be a bigger quake than the Northridge quake in 1994. The biggest quake that we've ever seen and anybody else has ever seen. Nobody alive today has ever seen that happen. It's going to happen. Last week, we saw a very strong 6.3 hit over in the Juan de Fuca Fault area. We had a 6.0 before that, just south of Queen Charlotte Island. We've had numerous 5s in this same area that we showed you where the Cascadia was hitting, just off of Northern California, just off of Seattle, Washington. When that segment of the Cascadia fault zone gets nailed, it's going to get nailed up and down the coast of North America, Alaska, all of British Columbia, Canada, the entire length of Canada, Western Canada. It's going to be felt all the way down south into Mexico. There's going to be a tsunami. There is going to be a tsunami associated with this as well. Why do you think I'm talking about it? Because that tsunami was seen over in Japan. They wrote about it. The North American Indians did as well. A big deal. Tsunami anywhere from 150 feet high to 100 feet high to 150 feet high. It's going to be felt well inland. Some scientists think 10 miles inland, and I've heard as many scientists say that it's going to be 20 miles or more out into the open farmlands of Seattle, or it's not just Seattle, Washington, Oregon, and California. That tsunami is going to go far inland. Now the problem with that is this. Let me show you this. Right here. Nope, sorry. This is the big wave I told you about. Okay? This is not as big as what is actually going to happen with the Cascadia. But you can see how big this earthquake, these seismic waves are. Generated by an earthquake. Or these ocean waves generated by an earthquake. You can see it. It's going to be hundreds and hundreds of feet higher. Okay? So this is what's happening. A little over 3 years ago, one of my friends and I were talking on the phone. There was a great big huge earthquake. 3 of them. 3 very large earthquakes. Major earthquakes. Major earthquakes. Now, what happened? Does anybody have any idea what happened? Why am I talking about this? Because it's going to happen again. The cotton picker is going to happen again. We know for a fact. It could happen any time. We've shown you the information about it. It could literally happen at any time. Now, what are you doing to make sure that you're going to be able to get away? We've talked about emergency planning, haven't we? We've talked a lot about emergency planning. Are you ready for this Cascadia megathrust earthquake? There's probably going to be some lead-up earthquakes that aren't going to be pleasant either. But the entire west coast of North America is going to get slammed. And this earthquake is going to generate seismic waves as far east as Washington, D.C., and Delaware and Maine, down into Florida. Yes, folks, the entire East Coast is going to feel this earthquake. Okay? It could actually activate the New Madrid fault that we've talked about. Okay? That could happen. Does anybody want to say what they think? Does anybody really realize what is about to happen? Lisa Spencer's here in the chat. She's talking about the seismic waves building. The pressure's on the Cocos Plate just south of Mexico. Yes, it is. South America is going to get ripped apart. Either just south of the country of Mexico, or just south of that around southern Guatemala. South America is going to be ripped apart, literally. It's going to start at the Cocos Plate. Huge. This is huge. The San Andreas Fault goes all the way down the coast of south or southern Mexico. All the way down the coast to southern Mexico. Okay? We're talking a major earthquake and tsunami. And the tsunami is not just going to happen in Washington and Oregon. It's going to go all the way down the coast. Promise. Promise. The earthquake is going to be felt all the way over to the East Coast as well. And there will be earthquakes between the West Coast, where the Cascadia subduction zone earthquake happened, and other earthquakes spread across North America, Canada, and the United States. Have you gotten prepared enough yet? Have you gotten prepared enough? Now, folks, when the Cascadia earthquake happens, you need to be prepared. We talked about preparedness vehicles. We talked about preparedness lists. We talked about planning. Now we're in the planning stage. Okay? Here's a four-wheel drive vehicle in terms of a truck. Great big huge 4x4 tires, huh? You're going to need a 4x4 to get around the fissures. You're going to need a 4x4 for off-roading because you're going to have to go off-road. You need to really start thinking about where you're going to be and what you're going to do. It's called planning. Planning. Let me show you what I used to have. What I used to have is right here. Except my truck was not a Ford. It was a Nissan pickup truck with a camper shell just like this, where the back opened up just like this. Okay? I lowered the tailgate and built a carpet kit in the back so my kids could be there safely and not get thrown around in my truck if something were to happen. In the corners of the back and the front part of the truck, in the bed, the carpet kit. Okay, the carpet kit I built. There was in the corner a place to put food storage in each of the corners near the cab. Each one of the four front corners of the carpet kit had freeze-dried food and medical supplies as well. In the other two cubby holes, I had other things in it. Okay? Emergency supplies. I had a 72-hour kit then. That was there. In the back of my truck were all my fishing rods, so Ron could go fishing in a pond if he wanted to. I fished a lot. I fished a lot in lakes and in streams and in the ocean in California, along with many of my buddies with the police department. Okay? I also put all of my police equipment in one of my storage containers that I moved out of my truck and into my police vehicle, and out of the police vehicle into the truck. That's why I bought it. And I had that truck for about 15, 17 years. I had to trade it in. Now, I have what could be called a small 4x4 now. Okay? They call it an small Chevy SUV. I'm going to get another 4x4 truck. Why? I'm in North Carolina. Yes, I'm going to have to go up and down mountains. You guys in Washington, Oregon, and California, great big huge fissures are going to open up that are going to destroy your roadways. They're going to destroy your highways. They're going to destroy bridges. When the bridges go down, you're not going to be able to go anywhere except if you have a motorcycle, an SUV with 4x4 capabilities, a truck, or a motorcycle or a bicycle. That's going to be your method of transportation. Because, folks, it's going to be dangerous. Okay? That earthquake's about to happen. That earthquake is just about to happen. That's why we're still talking about this. Okay? Now, let's talk more sanity and talk about the financial implications of a major earthquake. Let's talk about the financial implications of a major earthquake. What are you going to do? How are you going to survive? Are you going to survive? I certainly as heck hope so. Okay? Why did I put up this slide? Okay? I want you guys to notice some things, and you may want to take notes. Okay? You may also want to stop this video after we've completed it and go back to this point in time on the video and take a screenshot of this map. Take a screenshot of this map. This map details economic losses caused by earthquakes. economic losses caused by earthquakes. Okay? Earthquakes are estimated to cost the nation of the United States, just the U.S., $14.7 billion annually in building damage and associated losses, according to a new report that just came out. It was published by guess who else? Not just FEMA, guess who else was part of that study? The USGS. Okay? The USGS and FEMA got together and put out this study. At the annual Seismological Society of America meeting, this new estimate represents a twofold growth over previous estimates. It represents a twofold growth due to earthquakes, to increased property values, building values, incorporation of the latest hazard and improvements by the building industry. On April 18th, it just passed 3 days ago. April 18th marked the 117th year since the great 1906 San Francisco earthquake. A repeat of such an event today could cost more than $165 billion in building loss alone. $165 billion in building loss alone. As compared to the previous studies in 2001, 2008, and 2017, the estimated ratio of building loss to overall building value has consistently decreased throughout the western U.S., indicating progress in building. Progress in building. Making buildings more earthquake resilient, meaning they're not going to fall down as quickly as previously did in 1906 or 1994 or 1989. Okay? It's still going to happen. Earthquakes are still going to happen, and they're going to be even stronger than what we had in 1906 or 1999. Okay? 1989 was bad. This is going to be worse. Now, while the USGS and FEMA thinks that they have reduced the building vulnerability thanks to the efforts of the National Earthquake Hazard Reduction Act, yeah, Congress ordered that to try to help prevent injuries and deaths and building failures when an earthquake hits. Estimating the varying degree of earthquake risk is a priority of the government. Okay? That's what they're telling us. And it's critical for informed decision makers to come out and talk and to develop mitigation policies and priorities and strategies and funding levels in public and private sectors. Because it's not just going to damage the public sector out in the building area with commercial buildings. It's going to affect the private sector as well. You and I, in our homes. Now, folks, this is not over. Not over. Let me show you this next slide I found. This is the distribution of average annualized earthquake loss by region. By region. Why am I showing you this? Because it's not just the Pacific Northwest. It's not just California. Look up here in the Pacific Northwest, Washington and Oregon. Okay? $1.94 billion. $1.94 billion that it's going to cost comparatively, after the Cascadian megathrust earthquake hits. $1.94 billion. Look at California. They've got it estimated as $9.61 billion in California. This is relatively a hotbed issue with California, Washington, and Oregon because they know the major faults exist there. But it's not just that. Let's go over to what they call FEMA Region 8. Okay? FEMA Region 8 includes Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, Nevada, down here into Arizona and New Mexico. That's FEMA Region 8. USGS and FEMA believe that there's going to be a cost of $870 million when an earthquake hits here. The major fault zones are primarily around the Rocky Mountains. The Rocky Mountains. Why? Because all that energy coming out of Alaska can hit in the Rocky Mountains, all up and down this area, between Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico, the Rocky Mountain states. It could also hit Nevada. We've seen major earthquakes happen, well, not major yet. I haven't seen one in Nevada yet. However, we had a huge earthquake over in the Tonopah, Mina and Tonopah region of Nevada. A 6.5 earthquake hit there. Why did it hit? It hit because we have volcanoes there. There's no real earthquake fault, it was volcanoes. It's a great big huge volcanic region there. A 6.5 earthquake hit there. It still can happen in Nevada. The thing with Nevada is that it's just not earthquakes there. What happened in Nevada back in the 50s? Back in the 50s, Nevada just north and east of the air base there. Just north and east of the air base there, north of Vegas. What happened? They were testing nuclear weapons there. Now that whole area has artificial earthquakes, human-made earthquakes in that area. Okay? That's why Nevada is vulnerable. Yes, there are some earthquake faults in Nevada. That's why Nevada is so vulnerable. This whole area, Region 8, Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, Nevada, Utah, Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, look out. There's also volcanoes in Arizona and New Mexico. Okay? Then we proceed further east. And I don't remember what this region here is in yellow. Okay? I think it might be Region 3. Okay? What do we have? North Dakota, Minnesota, South Dakota. We have Iowa. We have Kansas. We have Oklahoma. And we have Texas. Okay? But I'm sorry, that is not including, well, actually, the area down here to the south, and I'm talking Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas, that all is Region 7. Region 7 here. Okay? Region 7. I don't remember what is up above it. Okay, now this area might be Region 7 altogether now, but it used to be just down here in the south, it was Region 7. Region 9 here in green is not just California. California, Hawaii, and Arizona, and Nevada. Nevada, Arizona, California, Hawaii, and out in Guam. That's Region 9. Region 10 is up here in Oregon and Washington in the gray, which includes Alaska as well. Okay? Look what we're talking about over here in the central region here. $1.1 billion there. $1.1 billion of damages there. Region 7 had an estimated value of $870 billion. Okay? Up here in the North Capital Region, up here in the light blue, we have $180 million there. $180 million there. And down here to the south, in the orange here, $350 million in damages. It's going to be far more than that. Just down in Florida, remember when that hotel collapsed and people were killed? $7 million right there with that hotel collapse. And there's several other hotels that are being shored up right now. And I don't have any figures on the damage of those hotels in Florida. It's going to be big. When an earthquake comes in and totals this place, or a hurricane comes into Florida and totals the place and goes up the entire coast of Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, into Virginia, look out. Look out. We've also seen hurricanes further north into Washington State, New York, going all the way up to Maine and into Nova Scotia. Millions and millions of dollars going to be lost in buildings and humans. We're not even talking about the cost of humanity. Okay? That's just this right here. Okay? That's just this right here. I wanted to show you because this is going to affect you. The cost of repairing your home. The cost of going to find another home after yours was wiped out. How about money to replace the things that you had? We've talked about that before, haven't we? This is a big, huge deal. Okay? It's a huge deal. Now, with FEMA and USGS, there's an update here going on. They're trying to improve earthquake hazard data and trying to pull together data of what it's going to cost to recover humanity. This is another big deal. I've been involved with this for a long time. The baseline building exposure data is now valued at $107.8 trillion. Okay? That benefited the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the National Structural Inventory, because they're the ones to put together this information, what it's going to cost to rebuild and recover areas. Although most economic loss is concentrated along the West Coast, naturally because of what we've seen with the San Andreas Fault, and now we're bringing out the Cascadia megathrust earthquake. What's going to happen there? The costs are going to be upwards in the billions of dollars. Okay? The distribution of earthquake-related risk. It's spread throughout the country. But that doesn't help any for the people that have lost their homes, their businesses, and their life. Okay? This is just an estimated annual loss. And it's only a fraction of the entire inventory of replacement value to the buildings. The annualized loss is derived from combining earthquake hazards, building exposure, and vulnerability, and thus it represents a long-term earthquake sequence. In Turkey and Syria, you remember what happened there. They're still trying to recover. And that highlights what I'm talking about. Earthquakes are still hitting. 100 to 150 earthquakes a day in Turkey and Syria and that whole region. Can you imagine what is going to happen after the Cascadia megathrust earthquake hits and it moves through the entire U.S. and Canada? And what's going to happen? It's not going to be pretty. Now, they have estimated on the West Coast. Okay? Why did they say that the West Coast is going to be so vulnerable? Look at that. Look at these colors. Why do you think they say that the West Coast is going to be so high? It's going to be so high because the concentration of loss of life in California and even over into Washington and Oregon, it's going to be huge. High seismic hazard, significant population and building exposure. The new update demonstrates a significant earthquake risk by 22% or larger. $3.1 billion per year in the rest of the country, which includes the central U.S., the Rocky Mountain region, Alaska, Hawaii, and Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. $3.1 billion loss per year. Per year. What do you think about that? Can we get through it? I hope so. Are you prepared? Lisa Spencer says, before the Cascadia, listen to me. Before the Cascadia, the Cocos Plate will go once it goes watch San Diego, Cali, and Alabama. Lisa, guess what? It's not going to happen before the Cascadia. The data we have shows that the Cascadia is going to happen before that. Before that. Okay? Elaine is going bye-bye here. I hope you have a good night, Elaine. You can see the rest of this program tomorrow or later tonight. But all this information is very important. What have we been talking about? The last thing I want to talk about really quickly is this. And next week we'll pick up, we may even try to get on the air again tomorrow. But and I'm talking about earthquake planning and emergency planning overall. Right now I want to talk to you about something else that's been really eating at me. What would you do if someone came into your home uninvited? What if someone came into your own home uninvited? I remember times in my life where my family would go out to a store or go someplace and I'd be the only one home. Okay? I was sitting in bed getting ready to fall asleep. Okay? And all of a sudden, I heard somebody come through my door. I heard someone come through my door. I passed by my daughter's room. I looked in on her and she was sound asleep. I had grabbed my firearm and I made sure it was fully loaded. I was going throughout the whole house, room by room, clearing it, meaning checking to make sure there was nobody there. I checked on my kids again before I went back to bed. Okay? All of a sudden, I'd gone back to bed and the alarm went off. Within seconds, I had my firearm again, and I was headed out into my house to check it. First, checking my kids. They were fine. Then I went out into the rest of the house. I was clearing it room by room. I glanced at my alarm panel and found it showed not an open door, but showed me going through my house. When my family left, they armed the alarm as if they were going to leave and not come back. They armed the motion detectors inside the house and the perimeter alarm system as well. They should not have armed the interior portion, the motion detectors, but they did. Okay? In seconds, my brain processed what was actually going on. As I moved, the alarm detection equipment caught me moving. Okay? I was the one who went through the house. The alarm caught me. What do you think should be done if someone got into your home? My home was safe. Now, just to tell you, most alarm systems have two different modes. One is away, where you turn on the entire alarm, including the perimeter windows and doors and everything. And you turn on the interior motion detectors, because the interior motion detectors are your second way of making sure that the alarm goes off. The motion detectors catch motion inside the house in case the bad guy permeates the outside perimeter and doesn't get caught by the windows and the door alarms, or the windows and the door sensors. Okay? The second mode is at home mode, where you activate just the perimeter sensors on the doors and windows. The motion sensors are left out of it. All alarms then are active on the doors and windows, but the motion alarms are turned off since you're in the house. Every night before I went to bed, I turned on at home, so the perimeter was set. As soon as I stepped into the hallway to check on my kids, I triggered the motion sensor, because my family had armed the interior. Okay? And the alarm went off. When they all got home, I thanked them for the huge adrenaline dump that happened to me when my alarm went off. But I couldn't let it go. Okay? I couldn't just let it go. I had to tell her what happened so she would know exactly what to think if something happened to her when she and the kids were home by themselves and armed the house. Okay? And yes, this first time it happened, it was okay. But if it happened again, what do you think you would do? I found out exactly what I was going to do. Okay? I had planned everything that I was going to do if my alarm system operated right and we had an intruder come in. A person that was really bad. Someone that was really ugly. Time is precious during a home invasion. You have to act quick and get to your gun quick. get to your nug, excuse me. Now, I had a semi-automatic. I still do. And it takes less than 5 seconds to get at it. And then, at night, I don't keep a live round in the chamber. I have to jack around by pulling my slide back, which puts a round in the chamber. Okay? So heaven forbid, a bad guy gets into my house. He's going to hear the round jack in the gun when I pull the slide back and it hammers home. He's going to hear that. He's also going to see the barrel of my gun pointing at him. And he may not see anything else because it will be too late. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? My nug was well equipped with night scope, night sights, so I can quickly understand where I was pointing my nug. I knew where I was pointing at, but I knew exactly what's going on. I had been trained. I moved throughout my house quickly, scanning all around to see if anybody was there. And if, heaven forbid, I had come face to face with the bad guy, I had 2 hands on my nug, and I was ready to open fire in seconds. Literally seconds. That's the same way you need to be. We talked about people getting nugs here that don't have them. If you have a nug or get a nug, you need to have training. Go take a training class. Then get a concealed weapons permit. Get a concealed weapons permit. I go all day carrying my nug everywhere. Now, you remember us talking about emergency planning. This is all part of it. What are you going to do when there's an emergency? How are you going to confront life as it is? It seems very simple, and that's the way it should be. Hopefully your spouse doesn't set off the alarm, or your family set off the alarm. But you need to know what you're going to do. Your home defense response should be accurate, and it should be very deadly. Don't allow the suspect any leeway. It's either going to be your word or the suspect's word. If you allow the suspect to live through this, he's going to testify against you, and you're going to be the one going to jail because he's going to lie. They always do. Make sure that your story is the only one, and make sure it's the absolute truth. We talked about this before. Okay? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Make sure your spouse is also well trained. Well trained enough where she is calling the police while you are going to check the house. Every room of your house. Make sure you train your spouse as well, and or your kids if they are the only ones. Make sure you train everybody. This is first response. We've talked about you being the first responder. You are. You're definitely the first responder. Folks, I hope you've enjoyed this night. I've tried to give you good information to help you in case of an emergency, because it's not just in case, it's going to happen. It's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, and you need to be ready for it. Now, my devotional here at the end of this program here. Blackbird says also, don't talk to the police unless you get a lawyer. Until you get a lawyer, don't talk to anybody. Please, folks, do not talk to any investigator, period. Don't say anything to anybody, period, until you got an attorney. Because even your friends or your family could be subpoenaed into court to testify against you. Don't talk to anybody about what happened. Keep that to yourself. Okay? Keep it to yourself. Now, I've decided to go back to Amos. Earlier this week, I went to Amos 3:7. Today, I'm going to Amos 8. Amos 8, verse 8. Behold, the eyes of the Lord are upon the sinful kingdom, and I will destroy it from the face of the earth, saying that I will not utterly destroy the house of Jacob, saith the Lord. For I will command, and I will sift the house of Israel among all nations. Like as corn is sifted through a sieve, yet shall not the last grain fall upon the earth. All the sinners of my people shall die by the sword, which say the evil shall not overtake nor be prevalent and prevent us. In that day will I raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen, and close up the breaches thereof, and I will raise up his ruins, and I will build it as in the days of old. Okay? What is he saying? He's giving us good counsel. The Savior's giving us good counsel here on what we should be doing to prepare. Folks, go to Amos 8, verse 8, and read it. You'll be glad you did. Folks, I care about you. That's why I try to spend as much time as possible giving you emergency preparedness information. Please, folks, use it. This information is here for you. Today, right now. At least on Monday, we will get back to earthquakes in the Cascadia region. We will talk about any earthquakes that have happened this weekend. If something big happens, we will be on the air to talk about it as soon as the information becomes available. But Monday, at least, we'll talk about Cascadia, and I want to get back to emergency planning. Part of it tonight was spent about emergency planning and what you're going to do in case someone breaks in to your home. What are you going to do? Make this information part of your plan. Write it down. Write it down. That's why we talked about it. This is all important. Now, guys, as we leave you here, I love you. I care about you. That's why we gave this information to you. Now, may God bless you. May God protect you. May God be with you until we meet again. Have a good night, folks. We will see you around the corner. Good night, everybody. Much love. Be prepared.